let's talk about the mindset and exact steps you can take to attract hella successful friends and reinvent and elevate your existing friendships in a way that's going to be really altruistic and mutually beneficial, both personally and collectively, among your circle of friends, in your community, and even ultimately your society. By celebrating your unique individuality, your creative brilliance, and sharing your unique innovative insights, and doing this in a way that's going to inspire other people to express this side of them as well, because this is really going to create a major evolution and transform your friendships. And there's a way to do this thanks to Pluto being in Aquarius. And so we're going to talk about the 4 different ways you can manifest the energy of Pluto, which is emotionally, psychologically, physically, and spiritually. We're going to be talking about the 3 different archetypes and the 3 different evolutions of a Scorpio using that energy, because Pluto is the modern ruler of Scorpio, as well as the lower octave planet Mars as well. And we're going to be talking about the 3 rulers of Aquarius, because when you combine modern and ancient astrology, Aquarius has more than 2 rulers. And so what you do is you merge all of that energy, and you're really given this amazing opportunity to transform your friendships. And I really want to share this video because I've come across so many people over the years that tell me that they don't have the kind of friendships and the support that they desire, which is Aquarius. And with Pluto being a psychological planet of reversal, this is an amazing opportunity to self-reflect, change some of your standards, your patterns, your boundaries, and really reflect and be honest about the ways that you can change and contribute so that you can attract the kind of friendships that you desire. So we're going to be looking at the introspective qualities of Pluto and Scorpio, as well as the collaborative qualities of Aquarius that all come together. Because I think a lot of people don't realize that there are things that you do and don't do that deter or keep away the kind of friendships that you truly desire. And so there's some constructive criticism, some questions that I'm going to give you so that you can kind of figure out your baseline, and also some insights on getting clear about the type of people that you want in your life and how you can contribute, where you can go, how you can attract that and maintain that and have that support that you desire. And this is something that we're all going to be able to work on for the next 20 years. So it's an amazing time for collaborative support and success. Now, I really want to talk about this because with Pluto, it's a psychological planet. It's very introspective, and people experience a lot of pain around not having the kind of friendships that they desire. And so looking at your past, kind of examining things within yourself, I think is really important, because Pluto is a psychological planet and it rules Scorpio. Scorpio has 3 different archetypes. It's got the Scorpion, the Rising Phoenix, and the Dragon. Now, with the Scorpion, it's low to the ground. It's a very primal, very instinctive. It's a very defensive archetype. And this is more of with Scorpio and Pluto representing trauma exposure, trauma loop, trauma healing and letting go. This is sort of like the first layer of trauma exposure, kind of reacting to things. It's very trauma based. It's very reptilian, kind of an instinctive sort of an energy. And when you move out of that stage, you process your traumas, you elevate into becoming a rising phoenix. You've done the work, and this is where you are able to transform yourself. And then from there, you can actually elevate to being a dragon. And this is really amazing, because when you do this, as amazing as being a rising phoenix is, this is a testament to you just overcame some trauma, you've healed, and that's great, but it's like, you're more than just your trauma and trauma healing. So who you become beyond that, who you evolve into, is a dragon. And Scorpio is the only sign that can transmute its elements, because it's ruled by Mars, which is a fiery planet, but it's a water sign. So when you go into that dragon state, you're able to transmute its elements. Dragons can be really friendly, but they can also breathe fire out of their breath. So they have a little bit more control. And oftentimes what I've noticed is when people say that they want certain types of friends and they're not able to get it, it's usually because they're operating out of the Scorpion or maybe the rising Phoenix, but not necessarily the dragon, or they're kind of teetering and stuff. So I think it's important to look at yourself, examine your friendships, and be like, okay, like what kind of friendships do I want? Why don't I have the kind of friendships that I have? What do I keep attracting? What am I doing that is maintaining this, participating? Look for that pattern. Be an investigator. Go down the rabbit hole. Use that scorpionic energy so that you can move out of that space, because Scorpio is a water sign and it freezes. And so you don't want to be stuck where you're at. So you want to melt it. You want to kind of explore what's going on. And the best way to do that is to explore emotionally and psychologically what's going on. An amazing book that I highly recommend for this is Healing Pluto Problems. This is something that you can check out. And I will have a video up on which Scorpio you are, and then I'm going to talk more in depth about the 3 different archetypes. So if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. And as far as like working with it physically, this can be something where either you're doing trauma release exercises, bioenergetics, or even if you're exercising and stuff, maybe particularly at home. With Mars is going to be going into Cancer, I believe, on the 27th. And so exercising at home, exercising with women, exercising with friends who are Cancers, or exercising with your family can be a great time to help you to process your trauma while Mars is in Cancer. But just in general, if you have like a preference of the way you like to exercise, our body stores trauma, so releasing that can be a great way to work through this energy as well. And then also spiritually speaking, this can be using tarot for guidance, or astrology, psychology. You know, some people consider this to be a spiritual experience. Specifically, an astrologer that might be like Jungian trained as an astrologer, that can be a method that can be really beneficial for you. So these are some different ways that you want to look at, okay, what do I want? You know, and just asking yourself, like, what do I want? Why do I want it? What kind of friends do I want? And these are important things. Oftentimes, I tend to attract 2 primary types of people. I have friends who are very successful or on their way to being successful. They have the growth mindset, the habits and stuff. And these are people who, believe me, their lives can be major shit shows. And they don't deny how they feel, because you're not going to benefit from pretending that you're not feeling a certain type of way because you deem it to be quote unquote negative. Repressing and suppressing isn't going to help you. But these are people who are aware and acknowledge the struggles, but they don't over fixate on it. They don't normalize complaining about it and saying it over and over and over and over to the point that they're perpetuating it. And I think this is something that a lot of people don't realize, because I've been diagnosed with OCD and OCPD, so I naturally repeat what people tell me. I've been trained as an ear prompter, where you're literally, you have a mic in your ear and you have to repeat the recording. So a lot of times what I noticed is the other types of people who tell me about the kind of friendships that they want, they're the people that I consider to be the ones who want what they want. Like, they want to have certain friends, but they are not, I don't know if I want to say they haven't paid the price of admission, but they haven't, they don't want to, they don't know what it is, they're hesitating, there's some sort of barrier that's getting in the way. And what I've noticed is that these are the type of people who will repeat the problem and saying it over and over and over to the point that they're perpetuating it. And I think people normalize this, and so then they don't realize they say it. But for me, I'm counting, and when I hear someone say something repetitively, that's when I start counting. And I stop counting after I notice, wow, someone has made the same complaint 5 or 10 times. I count in sets of 5. And then I eventually stop paying attention to how much they've been repeating themselves. But we all have different challenges and disadvantages. We all have goals and desires, the kind of support that we want from our community, our circle of friends, you know. And I come across a lot of people who say, I want to have sort of like this support, like a council of support. And they're like, I want friends that are doctors and attorneys and astrologers and consultants and coaches, and people who are able to help them, writers and all these different things. And yet they're not behaving, you might not be behaving in a way that'll attract the kind of thing that you want. Because even if something is true whether you bring it up once, twice, or don't even bring it up at all. But if you are focused on the problem and you over focus on it, and I don't think most people realize that they're saying it 5 or 10 times and as much as they are, but when you really think about it, that's kind of a lot to hear someone constantly say, I want this, but I can't because of this. And I hear a lot of people say that I don't have time, I don't deserve it, I'm alone, I don't know where to like get this support, I'm just so discouraged. And they say that over and over and over and over, and there's not enough space for the opportunity and growth for change. And I think that it's important to get out of that fixed mindset and to get out of that loop and to create a growth mindset, and not to ignore how you feel, but kind of realize when you're overly explaining it in a way that's no longer benefiting you, and start to look at what you can say and do, how you can change, how you can contribute in a way that'll attract the kind of friends that you desire. Because oftentimes when you want a certain type of support and people don't get it, they want to feel validated, so they complain and focus on the things that they don't have, but then you're not going to attract what it is that you want because you're not making room for anything new. So I don't think I'm telling you anything you don't already know, but if you want more success-oriented people, you want to sit at their table and you want to be accepted, okay, but like you have to understand that when you show up, you have to contribute something too. It's not just about what you want to get out of other people and the benefit. Like, how are you going to contribute? How are you going to be worthy of other people's time? What are you going to provide? And that requires you to really think about your self-worth, your confidence, what you have to offer. And you have to really have this honest look at your introspection. And I think that a lot of times people don't have the things that they deserve, either because for some reason they're separating themselves from it, they don't feel that they deserve it. There's some conditioning, some habit that's interfering and disrupting their desired results. So you need to start being honest and looking at what that looks like for you. And doing this now more than any other time, you're gonna do a better job attracting that. And I think it starts with changing your mindset, changing your vocabulary. And this is why I'm personally a huge advocate of talking to yourself. I do have a Mercury and Aquarius video where I talk about how important it is to be strategically weird, because we're told to not talk to yourself because it makes you crazy. But that's what society says, because then it makes you easier to be manipulated, right? And so when you talk to yourself, you start to realize what you're saying, because you're not just saying it in your head, you're hearing your own voice. And start thinking about, okay, am I saying anything in a way that would make someone want to be friends with me? Like I get a lot of people who are always so impressed with like my circle of friends. Like I know amazing people in my life. One of my friends, he was getting sued by his landlord and his attorney gave him the wrong court date. So they automatically ruled in his landlord's favor. So he was like, fuck that shit. And he went to school for 9 months to become a paralegal. I have friends that are doctors and attorneys, and you need to have a certain mindset in order to attract people like that. And I feel like a lot of times people want the support without realizing that support is a two-way street. You have to feel worthy of that support. You have to present yourself as being worthy. You have to present yourself in a way where you're going to be accepted, and to collaborate in a way that's mutually beneficial. And it's really considering the other people. Like Pluto is very introspective and Aquarius is very collaborative. So like use Pluto to be like, what do I need to do? How do I need to change? And then use Aquarius to be like, how can I contribute now that I'm here? And what do I want from other people? What type of support do I want? And I would really recommend starting with talking to yourself. Start to become aware of like the emotions that you're releasing. Is it something that you're normalizing? Is it something that other people want to experience? Do I want to change how I deliver myself? And not so that other people can accept you, but become aware of who you want to be, how you want to change in a way that helps you to learn and grow. And it's not the same to talk about with talking to yourself, but the thing is, we all have answers and insights. And so when you feel like you don't have that support that you desire, you are always with yourself. If you learn to talk to yourself and you learn to give yourself support, you normalize having that support that you desire, and then it's going to be easier for other people to give you that, because you're naturally going to be more receptive. So I highly, highly, highly recommend that you talk to yourself. The other thing is, if you don't feel comfortable or you're not noticing people that you want to be friends with and you want to connect with at this time, look at your favorite TV shows. Look at characters in books that you like. That's where I started off. Like, I really like Angela Montenegro on the TV show Bones. Like, she's very emotionally compassionate. She has a great way of communicating, not taking things personally, and being really intelligent. And she's not egotistical, and it's something, an quality that I really admire. And so when I needed support, I would imagine having a conversation with her and being like, well, what would Angela say? What advice would she give me? You know, and I would try to play that role, practice receiving it and stuff. Look for basically kind of like archetypes of the type of support that you want, and then find ways to provide that for yourself. Because Aquarius is about unique individuality, so it's something that you can offer yourself, and it's also something that you can collaborate with others. But you don't have to wait until someone or something shows up. Start with yourself. And I think that this is going to be a really great way, because Pluto magnetizes resources. So the more you are operating in that Aquarian energy, being unique, being different, talking to yourself, being intelligent, using that air sign, collaborating with yourself in a way that's unique and independent and different, you're going to bring in those resources, the types of friendships and the types of support that you want, that's going to help you to elevate your success and get the things that you truly desire. So I think that that's a big thing. And I have some other thoughts that I want to share with you, but I want to take the time to remember a specific thought. I don't remember what it is, so if it comes to me, I'll mention it. But I know I think I already covered that. One of the recommendations that I have is to like be mindful of the things that you say. Just remember that when you're saying things, people have to listen to it, both you and other people. Is it beneficial? Like, it's not so much that I want you to censor who you are or what you want to say, but with everything you say, ask yourself, is this beneficial or is this not? You know, and then just start to be aware of your calibrations and work on reharmonizing with that. And doing that correction is going to be a lot easier, because Aquarius is ruled by Saturn, which is its traditional ruler, and it represents correction. Saturn also represents time. And in Capricorn, it rules time moving backward. It's like time in the past. And Saturn is about representing time in the future when it's ruling Aquarius. So the things that you do now and the efforts you put in your community and your friendships and stuff are going to benefit you in your future. And the modern ruler of Aquarius is Uranus. And Uranus is a very different sign. It's the planet of chaos, and it's the higher octave of Mercury. So it's got this polarizing energy with Saturn, because Saturn is about being systematic. It's about making corrections. It's about like this consistency, and it represents responsibility, and it's about stability. And that makes sense, because Aquarius is about society and all of these things, and you need a certain level of commitment and fixity in order to offer that. And this is why making corrections in your insights is really going to go a long way in how you interact, the things that you can do differently, the things that you can enhance more, that's already working for you, all of this stuff. Saturn is going to be supportive. But here's the thing, sometimes Saturn can be antiquated, outdated, the systems no longer serve you. And when that happens, Uranus will go and blow shit up so that it'll literally give you an opportunity to rebuild something that's better for you, which makes sense, because Aquarius also rules revolution. Revolutions are when societies get destroyed so that you can rebuild things. That's why Uranus is the planet of chaos, and it's the higher octave of Mercury, which is about planning. And so wherever Aquarius is in your chart, you want to take a look at that energy, and you might notice that, you know, certain systems are working, take advantage of it. And then when you start noticing that it's not working, just know that eventually if you don't intentionally implement changes yourself, Uranus is going to go and create chaos and destruction. Not because it's a violent sign that's out to get you, but because Uranus wants you to elevate. And if you don't do it yourself, it's going to do it for you. So if you want to collaborate with the energy of Uranus, when you start realizing that things aren't working, start looking at, okay, why is it not working? How come in the past my friendships didn't work? How can I correct this behavior in myself and in other people? Do I need to be more discerning? Do I need to have better boundaries? Do I need to be more articulate? Do I need to be clearer about the type of friends that I want, how I want people to interact with me? Do I need to go somewhere differently? Is the environment the problem? Am I the one that has to make changes? Do I need to be clearer about what it is that I want to get out of friendships? This is an opportunity to really reflect on those things, and then Uranus will come and create those unexpected sudden changes that support that desire and will bring that in. But the thing that's important is you want to be careful to not resist and try to hold on to what's worked in the past with Saturn, because then the Uranian energy is going to be a lot rougher. And Uranus is the individual, unique side of independent thinking, quality, and character traits that come with Aquarius. And before Uranus was discovered, before telescopes existed in ancient astrology, they attributed the secondary ruler of Aquarius to account for that like unique flair that's very anti-Saturnian with Ketu or South Node. It's a lunar point in the sky, and it sort of represents obsession, old programming. It's skills and talents that you've acquired in your past lives, and they're beneficial, but it's also something that you're supposed to empty out of, because you're supposed to operate more from your North Node or your Rahu, which is on the opposite side of the spectrum. And this is your fastest way to achieve material wealth. Now, the thing is, you can still use the benefits and the advantages of Ketu. It's important to do it for other people, in consideration and support of others, not so much for you to benefit from it, because that's the opposite energy of Ketu. That's the opposite energy of Aquarius. Aquarius is about elevating society, the everyday person. It's about giving power to the group. And so you want to use that energy in that sort of way. And what I realized is the best way to use that energy of the three rulers of Aquarius is to use the systems that work that Saturn offers you. And when it no longer serves you, think of it like Saturn is like the pond. Okay, it's a weird analogy because Aquarius is an air sign, but it's a good analogy. And so imagine Saturn is like the pond. It's a still water, lake, something, and that's great and it's beautiful. But after a while, when the water is stagnant, it can get mildewy and develop mold, and it starts to become toxic, right? So then Uranus will come and create waves as a way to clean and flush out some of that stagnation so that it can offer something better. And when that happens, if you're not prepared for it, you can be shocked and startled and scared and not react and go against and resist the Uranian energy and that force. But think of it like you're the surfer, okay? When Saturn is no longer serving you and Uranus goes and create waves, imagine being on a surfboard, and that surfboard is Ketu, and you use your existing skills instinctively, and you're just going to start making moves that are going to benefit you. And you do that by doing things that by recognizing, how can you support others? How can I contribute? How can I be meaningful? And this is going to be the way that you're going to attract your circle of friends. And I feel like when people are experiencing this imbalance and they're very much like, I don't have the circle of friends that I want, I'm alone, or I don't have time, or I don't have this, there's so much of that energy that you need to go to the opposite energy. Okay, and the opposite energy of Aquarius is if you're feeling like trapped and blocked when it comes to friendships, which is operating with like the lower manifestation of Saturn, the blockages in Aquarius, which rules friendships. You want to change that energy up, go to the opposite sign where Leo is. Leo is about creative expression. It's about optimism, unique intelligence. It's about putting yourself in the spotlight. It's about being self-centered. It's about being confident about yourself and contributing in a way that's going to be inspiring for others? What can you offer? Put that energy into it. And that way you get away from that heaviness energy and you're able to kind of weigh that out a little bit, if that makes sense. So these are just some ways that you can really take advantage of this energy, because sometimes our habits kind of keep us stuck, and I think it's a matter of changing it up. And also like asking yourself, like I feel like with everything that's going on in the world, a lot of people are like, I want friends that are like psychologists and astrologers and investors and attorneys and doctors, people who are aware of what's going on, people who are politically informed. And these are great things, but also like, what are you going to contribute? Think about that. And if you want to attract this, are you in the environment where they're going to be at? And now you technically don't even have to leave. Like, there are social media is everywhere. There are groups that you can join. There are workshops. You can check out Eventbrite, and think about where you might be able to find the people that you want to meet and visit. Like I used to go to a bunch of workshops that doctors were hosting where they taught you things. Caltech, for example, has like speeches and seminars and stuff. There are things that you can go to, places where the demographic of who you want are there. And I think it's less about time, because I notice the biggest thing people say is that they don't have time or they're not around and this and that. And yet people will start talking to me and they'll spend hours and hours and hours talking to me. And I live in downtown LA, and I'm like, I live in a high-rise apartment, and there are so many people who have careers and professions and knowledge and skill set that I'm looking for, because I'm choosing to live where they are. I'm going to where they are mingling. So that's something that you can do as well. And sometimes I feel like people aren't where they need to be in order to surround themselves with the environment that they want. And other times it's like they're everywhere in your proximity, but for whatever reason, you're not connecting. So that's something that you kind of have to look at within yourself as well. Now, when it comes to your existing friendships, if you want to reinvent and elevate friendships, this is a time to really evaluate the kind of friends that you have. And you need to ask yourself, like, is this friendship serving me? Is it beneficial? Am I good for this friend? Are they good for me? Okay, and fuck that whole, like, I'm loyal, so I'm going to hang on to this friendship. Like, I remember I met someone who told me that she's so loyal and that's why she has these friends. And it was just like this flex that she had. And it's like, you're not loyal. You're actually disloyal to yourself. You are loyal to problematic behavior. You are loyal to punishing yourself because of your past. There may have been friendships that were once beautiful at one point, but if you've outgrown them, you need to be honest and you need to let those friendships go. Or if you want to change the quality and nature of your relationships and evolve it so that you can keep those friendships, you need to make those moves too. Think about the kind of future that you want. Okay, and that doesn't have to be limited to Scorpionic, Plutonian, Aquarius, Saturnian, Uranian, K2 things, but you can start there. What kind of an environment and friendship do you want emotionally, psychologically? How do you want to experience trauma and spirituality, psychic energy? How do you want to deal with strategies and making corrections and learning and growing and collaborating and supporting people and things in your community? How do you want to contribute in a really unique and meaningful sort of a way? What does that look like? How do you want to do this? And do the existing friendships you have offer that? And are there ways that you can implement that? And ask yourself, like, say you want friends that you can be closer to and talk about traumas or talk about astrology or something. Ask them, like, hey, like one of my friends, she wants her sister to watch my astrology videos, and she said, oh yeah, we're gonna go and eat, and when we eat, we're gonna watch your videos. Like, they turn it into like an activity that they do. So you can be like, hey, I really want to learn about astrology with you. How do you think about maybe we can like watch this? Like, YouTube Jaymie's like Jaymie as fuck YouTube channel, or it can be like a psychologist, or be like, hey, I want to go to this psych workshop, will you come with me? You know, my bestie and I, we have weekly co-working sessions. This is something that's really important to us, and we support each other, and we are constantly sending each other resources back and forth. And I have another really close friend. He sends me prompts and recommendations, and he adds me and shares me to like his PDFs and documents and resources. And I think that this is really important. I think the issue isn't so much about complaining, but how much effort are you directing towards going to where you need to go? You know, instead of saying, I don't have enough time, it's like, I want to find the time for this. I wonder what that looks like. You know, I think that that's a big thing. And I think you have to start being honest and open with yourself. A pattern that I've noticed so often is that a lot of times there are two things that I've noticed. There are some women who say, I don't trust women. And that's very much a trauma response. It's very much operating out of the Scorpion energy. And there's something I feel like that has to change, you know, and sometimes it's, if you don't change and you're on that baseline, if someone else doesn't disrespect you, you may be the person that creates that, and it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. So you got to figure out where you have like these very black and white thinking, because that's a trauma response. That's something for you to look at. And I highly, highly, highly re-emphasize reading Healing Pluto Problems. It's an amazing resource. And the other thing that I noticed is I hear people saying the people who most want to have like an elite circle of friends that are like a council of like support and wisdom and insights, like a boardroom of experts, are the ones that tend to say, I don't bother to give advice to people because they don't want to hear it. And there's like this definitive like answer. And one thing that I noticed is, if you want people that are advisors and you're finding that you're surrounding yourself with people who don't want advice, there's something to explore, okay? Because in my personal opinion and my experience, when you surround yourself with people who genuinely want to learn and grow, they're pretty receptive to hearing advice if you're good at giving the advice. And there's a certain level of discernment that has to come from you as well, because oftentimes whenever I've seen people say, oh, I don't give advice because nobody wants to hear it, here are the things that they don't consider, and here are some thoughts that I think are important to explore. You may actually be giving crappy advice. You may not realize it, but you may be giving crappy advice. Or it might be good advice, but your delivery is shitty, and you're not vetting your audience properly. You can have the best advice in the world. If you're offering it to a recipient who doesn't want to listen to it, then no one's going to listen. It doesn't mean that the advice is bad. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't give advice. It means that you need to do better with your selection process. You need to work on your discernment. In a world of billions and billions and billions of fucking people, it doesn't make sense for you to assume, I don't bother to give advice because people don't want to hear it. It's like, yeah, the people that you attract, not necessarily all people in general. And one thing that I often think about before I give insights and advice is I ask myself what the outcome is, not just the intention, but the outcome. If I share insights, is this going to be well received? Is this something that someone is ready to hear? Because if someone's not ready to hear something, they're going to hang on to whatever the problem is, whatever they don't want to let go of, because they want that familiarity. And so you got to keep that in mind. And so like, I don't care if my intention and if my insights are actually valuable. If it's not something that I know people aren't ready to hear, I don't share it, because consent is important. And oftentimes a big thing with people who say, nobody wants to hear my advice, is because you're not respecting consent. I give advice all the time, and I very rarely do it unsolicited, because people are asking me and I know that they are ready and want to hear it, which is why I provide it. And these are people who are receptive and more committed to wanting to learn and grow. And I just noticed this trend. The people who complain the most about why they don't have the things that they want are the same people that are like, I want these friends so that they could help me. And then they're like, nobody wants my help. And it's just like, there's a mismatch. If you're trying to give help and nobody wants to give it to you, and you're trying to receive help and you're not getting it, you need to recalibrate yourself. that's something to consider. And I think that the more work you do, the more you're going to attract people who do want that advice, who are going to benefit from it. But you need to stop wasting time telling people things that they don't want to hear. And here's the thing, like, if you're good at giving advice, you're gonna know when not to give advice, so you're gonna have less experiences of people thinking, of coming to the conclusion that nobody wants to hear your insights, because that creates this cynical energy, and that's being in that more lower vibration energy of Saturn, which is about burdens, responsibility. Saturn rules depression, and so you want to elevate out of that. So you want to think about the different actions that you want to take, which is Mars, which is the traditional ruler of Scorpio. And so it's not just about doing the psychological work, but once you are able to do that, take the action, or take the action first, really, because with any of the generational planets, you want to connect with the traditional rulers first, the lower octave, and it's going to be easier for you to connect with the generational planets, because the generational planets are more, they exist more on an esoteric level. Now, with that said, a little disclaimer, if you have easier aspects to your generational planets, which I do, it may be easier for you to connect with the generational planets on an energetic level. But if you want changes in the material world, you still have to work on the traditional rulers. So you also want to look at where Mars is in your chart as well. But the big thing I would say is, when you're looking at friends, ask yourself, like, is this someone that I want to have a future with? Do I think that this person is going to support me? Can I support this person? Really ask yourself that. And I would recommend that you take the time to write down what your amazing qualities are, how you can contribute, the kind of value that you offer. What are some things that are undesirable about you, or problematic or off-putting, that you might want to work on? And think about how you can make some changes to correct that. And then think about the kind of friendships that you do want. What qualities do they have? What does that look like? Where do you want to hang out? What do you want to talk about? What do you want to do? How are you supporting each other, right? And you can do that with existing friends. What are some ways that you want to connect with them? And then ask your friends, hey, you know what? I really want to elevate the quality of our friendship, so this was something that I was interested in. Do you want to maybe join a book club where every month we read a finance book? How do you feel about that? Do you want to join a creative writing workshop with me? I'd really love some support with this, or I'd really love to support you with that. How do you feel about that? Collaborate, talk to people, experiment with what's going to make you feel good, but ultimately be honest and discerning, and be like, is this someone that I have a platonic, mutually beneficial friendship with? Or is this someone that I can have that with? Or is this the type of existing friendship that I can evolve that into? Because if not, it's time to let shit go. Pluto is about reversal. It's about death and rebirth. It's going to shuffle away shit that doesn't serve you. Okay, and Aquarius is the same way too. It's the planet of reversal. So that's gonna fucking shuffle away too. Saturn is one of the planets of death. So just really be honest with yourself. And this is a tremendous opportunity to do that. And I provided you with a bunch of recommendations and resources. I hope that this helps you. And if you want to stay accountable, feel free to comment and write down what you're doing to work through and really take advantage of this Pluto and Aquarius energy, and how to transform your friendships. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye.